Hello and welcome to another episode of Autogefuehl. Today with me, AJ and Jonas. On today's episode, boy, we got something special for you guys. This is the all-new Mercedes-Maybach GLS 600. Let's take a closer look. Let's take a look at the front, and isn't it imposing? First thing you'll notice is, of course, the Maybach grille, which has these very long vertical slats. They taper towards the bottom. At the top, it's almost like an oar shape. Of course, it's a little bit plasticky, but it has to be. I mean, it has to meet pedestrian regulations for crash norms. If this was actually chrome and steel and metal, or, it would probably shred the person it crashed into. But nevertheless, it looks really regal, almost like the Parthenon or the Pantheon. And how great is it to finally see the hood ornament back on a Mercedes SUV? I think it's a great combination. Of course, you do have the radar sensor for the adaptive cruise control, the advanced driver assistance systems right here in the middle. But I really like the spindle shape grille in the lower part of the bumper. Everything about this SUV is razzle-dazzle, and we start right here in the front. Of course, you do have the full LED multi-beam lights, which have a really nice look, almost a purple-blue indigo tinge. The GLS 600 is 2.1 meters wide, 5.2 meters long, and it weighs about 2.7 tons. I mean, this Maybach version, you get actually the Maybach wheels. Right now we do have the winter tires and the winter wheels here. They're still 22 inches. They still look really big and they fill the wheel arches really well. But the special wheels kind of mimic the design that we saw in the front grille. So these spokes will also have that oar-shaped design. But I think this looks really good. I mean, everything about this SUV is about opulence and extravagance. And we can start with the paint job. I mean, I think it's a beautiful dual-tone paint, but just the paint costs an extra 21,000 euros. That white Napa leather interior, 16,000 euros. And these are individually more expensive than my car. Just boggles the mind, but that's the point. This is the ultra-luxury segment. As we go further down the side, well, again, it's a GLS, so it's based on the same GLS platform, which means the size of the body on the outside is the same. Very flat, smooth design lines, not too many sharp edges anywhere, only a little bit down here. I do like that shiny chrome, and it's pretty cool. I'll show you in a minute what it can do. But a really tall shoulder line, really tall roof line, roof rails as well, and a very sharp rake. Almost a vertical for the last pillar here, and of course with the special Maybach logo. Here at the back, it's a very tall vertical tailgate. Of course, this has the air suspension. You can lower this to make it easier to load items, but as it stands, it's a very tall stance. I do like the rear lights, again LED, with this nice detailing on the inside. Further down, another special Maybach feature is for the exhaust tips. You see that we have a horizontal fin with the chrome color on both sides. So, what do you think? Doesn't this look like a land yacht? Let's take a look under the hood to see what powers this behemoth. The GLS 600 Maybach gets a unique tune of the 4-liter bi-turbo V8 petrol engine, which makes 558 PS or metric horsepower and 713 newton meters of torque. It's mated to a 9G-tronic Autobox and a 4-wheel drive system, the 4MATIC, which can split power between the axles in a complete 0 or 100%. This also comes with a 48-volt EQ boost, which is a starter-alternator electric hybrid system to fill in the gaps and add a little bit of extra torque. It can therefore do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 4.9 seconds and a Vmax of 250 kilometers per hour, even though it weighs 2.7 tons. Don't expect it to be frugal though, at least it's going to consume 10 liters per 100 kilometers. Now, of course, when you think of Maybach and air suspension, you remember the magic body control, wherein there's a scanner and a camera on the front, which scans the road surface up ahead and preemptively positions the suspension where it needs to be so that the body does not move at all. And in fact, we'll talk about this later on. There's a special Maybach mode which enhances luxury and comfort in the rear seats. But this is a GLS, and inherently, it's supposed to be a little bit of an off-roader. And to do that, there's actually another function with the air suspension, which, well, makes the SUV dance like this. Now, this might look funny, but the truth is this is very useful when you're going off-road and you're stuck in sand or snow or loose surfaces. You might have seen in other situations where people jump up and down on the bumper of their SUV, and this helps push the wheels down and helps get traction. And this, well, it does it automatically for you. And sitting inside, this is a lot of fun. Here we have the key fob. To be honest, it's a little bit underwhelming because this is the same key fob that you get even in an EQA. But you get the Mercedes-Benz logo on the front, the Maybach logo on the back. You can put it in your pocket, keyless entry, so you touch the door handle, it automatically opens. And then when you open the door, well, the running board sticks out. If the suspension is a little bit higher, it will kneel down for you, and getting inside then was super, super easy. Let's take a look at the door. Again, very large, very heavy door, double pane windows, lots and lots of extra sound deadening. But to be honest, the front part of the GLX 600 Maybach is still very much GLS only. The Maybach really starts in the backseat, and we'll come to that in a minute. Very plush materials on the top here. This is, of course, a leather option. In fact, this is the white Napa leather, which is a 16,000 euro option. Typical with Mercedes, all the seat controls are right here on the door panel. Heated, ventilated, massaging. You get the Burmester audio system as well. Large door pockets. And further down at the door sill, you see the Maybach logo as well. Taking a look inside, wow, well, that white color just brings so much light and airiness into the cabin. Of course, not to forget that huge panoramic sunroof. We get, of course, two screens for the cockpit and the infotainment. There's a lot of wood on the inside, very evidently also right on the steering wheel. The seats have that brown piping. They also are perforated, so again, because of the ventilation, it really helps. Really soft and plush. Thick carpets as well. And if we look near the foot pedals, we also have the metal Maybach logos on the pedals. Getting inside is really easy. Again, thanks to this floorboard, you just ever so gracefully step into your yacht. And yeah, immediately you feel like you own the world. At least that's how I feel. And honestly, of course, the S-Class Maybach or the Maybach Pullman, based on the S-Class, that long limousine, are probably more conventionally considered luxury. But this taller seating position, I think, also very well complements the luxury, ultra-luxury segment. So, case in point here with this GLS 600. But again, most of this is very similar to the GLS 600. You get the dual screens for your instrumentation as well as the touchscreen, also controlled with a touchpad. Let's take a look at the steering wheel. Like I mentioned, this comes with the optional wood on the steering wheel, which I think is so nice. Of course, it's a bit smooth and glossy and not necessarily very grippy, but this is not a sports car. So I think it looks really regal. You have a lot of controls on the left-hand side to change settings on the virtual instruments as well as the head-up display. And on the right-hand side, you have controls for the main screen and your volume and phone. Also, this car comes with a lot of advanced driver assistance systems, which also you can control on the steering wheel itself. There's paddle shifters as well for the automatic transmission behind this. This being still a Mercedes, the gear selection is on the stock on the right. The main instruments are also highly configurable. First of all, you can change the entire look and feel of this by using the Styles and Displays menu. And of course you have things like Sport, Progressive, but I think you really just want to keep it in the Classic, which is what really reflects and highlights this Maybach style. So let's keep it back there. But even within this menu, you still have options like, for example, in the middle, if you want to see consumption or you want to see other displays like the time or the speed. You can even change the display on the right-hand side to show something else like what level the suspension is in, and same thing for that on the left. So highly configurable to choose what you want, and I think it's something you'll play with in the first few days, but then kind of leave it in one way and then forget about it. A very large touchscreen in the middle, but of course if you don't want to use it as a touchscreen, there's a really nice trackpad in the bottom. You have options to connect your phone. The navigation is also really easy to understand. It's fairly slick and fast. There's radio, and of course you can set up the different type of massage that you want. And you also have a lot of nice ambient lighting, which you can select here as well. For the color and the brightness as well can be changed. There's also app connectivity with your smartphone using Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, which is always easy to use. And yes, generally very nice system. It's still not the new MBUX that we see, but I like this, and it really is complemented with that trackpad, so you don't have to always use the touchscreen. In true Mercedes fashion, we have the vents located right here. In this case, they're 4. They're very quadrangular. Further down, always I love to see physical buttons and toggles and switches for the climate menu, which is really easy to use. A large tambour door, which slides away with this really nice knurled finish metallic latch to reveal an inductive phone charging port, a couple USB-C ports, a versatile adaptive cup holder, which can be cooled or heated to keep either your coffee warm or your drink cold. As we move further up here, this is the main trackpad that I said it's very easy to use. It gives you a haptic feedback, a little vibration. There's a clicking sound. You can press it down for the home or to go back, things like that. You have the drive mode selector toggle here, volume roller, which again, very nice knurled finish, and shortcut buttons for your other functions like the parking camera, navigation, and so on. Beautiful Maybach knob here to rest your palm while you make the controls, and some more further controls for the traction control, the suspension are also located right here. A very plush center armrest, which is not adjustable, but you press this button and it opens to reveal a large cubby hole with a couple more USB-C ports. Oh boy, now I'm super excited to check this out. Of course, the minute you open the back door, even the floorboards extend, and it's a very inviting large entrance. And that's also because, yes, this is the same GLS platform, but the GLS, let's remember, is also a 3-row configuration. So instead of having 3 rows, they have moved the second row further back, and now you have just these 2 business class, kind of first class lounge seating here. So there's a lot more space between the front row and the second row, or the front and the back seats in this case, because there is no third row. Again, plenty of sound deadening everywhere. Anyway, enough chit chat. Let's get inside. Wow. I'm going to move this pillow ever so slightly, ever so carefully over there so I can get more comfortable here. Large resounding thud as the door closes. I'm completely cocooned right now. I can, of course, lower these blinds. I can also of course, open this large panoramic sunroof to let in a lot of light. This light-colored roof liner, it is in leather, unfortunately, which is not very eco-friendly, but this color at least brings so much more airiness into the cabin. Even the top here and along the speakers here, there's more ambient lighting. The ambient lighting is also here on the front seat, along the side of the doors, and even around me, around the back here. So it's really cocooning me. When they say ambient lighting, it is very ambient because it's everywhere. But check this out. There's a button here. I press it once. The front seat moves away. My seat gets reclined. The footrest raises. I don't want to dirty these 16,000 euro seats, so I'm going to keep my shoes away from them. But it goes up, and now I definitely feel like I own the world. There is no doubt in my mind at this moment. Again, I can retract everything back with a simple push of this button over here. The poor passenger over there, probably squished, but who cares? A lot of useful features here as well. Of course, you can see there's a large tablet. I can push this button because, of course, why would you lift a tablet? I mean, you know, there's a button here to lift it for you. Then you can use this. This controls a lot of things here in the back seat. For example, the climate control, because I'm too lazy to reach down there to change the climate. This obviously has 4 zones, so each passenger gets their own completely independent air conditioning climate zone. There's a lot of other things I can set, like, for example, the navigation itself, or change the menus. Of course, I have 2 large screens here as well, touch screens as well to watch media. And down here, I have a inductive phone charging port. I have a couple USB-C ports on either side. If I move this door away, there's a couple beverage holders. Also, special holders here for the champagne flutes, which come with this car, which you can, they will be clamped down here automatically. And then, of course, with a simple push, that door closes itself. Down here, there are 2 very gorgeous, well-engineered, well-machined trays with anti-slip grip material, also rubber along the edges to make sure that your laptop doesn't slide away. But just look at the quality of this metal, probably aluminium it feels like. Everything is damped and then it clicks. You know, there's a nice click between these different stages, and then it gets tucked away. More storage, a 230 volt power outlet as well, which is useful. And, of course, let's not forget, I own the world now. So every now and then I want to have some champagne to celebrate. So you can open this down. There would be 2 champagne flutes over here, and you have your own refrigerator back there to keep, you know, the best bottle, the most expensive bottle of champagne. Of course, you can even choose how much you want it to be cool. There's so many settings. But the funny thing, which, you know, I gotta hand it to them, is if you look down here, there are ISOFIX points. So yes, you can put child seats in both of these seats here. Let's take a look in the boot. Automatic tailgate, obviously. You're looking at 520 liters of capacity, minus a few because of the refrigerator. Because of the air suspension, you can also use the switch here to lower the height of this floor and raise it again so that you can load and then unload easily. You also have a 12-volt power socket. But a very important thing to keep in mind is this entire section here is fixed. The seats don't fold, and you cannot remove or move this. And that's because in a usual car, there's a lot of sound that comes from the rear. And because of this open space here, it creates a lot of noise in the cabins. This is where a lot of the noise comes in from. And of course, being a Maybach and being luxury, it's all about having a quiet interior. All that sound deadening, a lot of it has gone into this solid piece here. And even this is very thick, and a lot of sound deadening here. A lot of sound deadening along this as well. So yes, you lose some space, especially with this, and you can't fold the seats down. But because of the large GLS platform and the lack of any third row of seats, you can still fit quite a lot of suitcases here in the back. All right, let's start off our drive here on the Autobahn. The first thing I notice is the lack of any sensation. It's really like a sensory deprivation tank in here. I hear nothing from the outside. Double glazing, the immense amount of sound deadening, it just disconnects you completely from the outside world. Even this big engine is barely audible. It's barely ticking over at just over 1,000 RPM, just wafting along effortlessly. That suspension is also doing a phenomenal job. Again, it's scanning the road up ahead in the front. I have it, of course, in the Maybach mode. So what it's doing is it's trying to optimize the suspension and the height itself preemptively before I come to that part of the surface of the road to maintain a completely steady and stable ride here for the cabin. And it's really disconcerting because I don't feel anything of what's happening on the road. It's completely a disconnect. But I guess this is as close to floating as you'll ever get in a car. The steering is also very vague in this kind of mode, but again, this is not supposed to be sporty. It's just giving you a very gentle feedback of what the tires are doing. But again, it's just incredibly quiet. You also have a lot of advanced driver assistance systems. You have active lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, traffic sign recognition, and they all work in conjunction to really give you a semi-autonomous kind of a driving experience. You also have something called pre-safe, wherein the car will sense if you're about to have a collision or an accident, which is completely unavoidable, and will, again, preemptively tighten the seat belts. If you're lying down in the reclined position in the rear seat, it has special airbags that it will pre-deploy, and basically it just kind of, like the word says, pre-safe. It senses if you're about to have a collision and prepares for that. I also really like the navigation because you have the augmented reality here on the screen, so it shows you the turns that are coming up displayed directly onto your the screen here, so you can kind of make very quick decisions and know exactly which road that you have to turn into. Small things as well, small details that I like. Even though it's an option, I do love the double blinders, the visors here. So you have one on the top, which can also extend, and you have another one to put up into the front. So again, attention to detail is very important in this class of car. Now we're going around some gentle curves here on a winding country road. The steering does provide weight. It feels quite artificial, but it's just there to kind of tell you how much load each tire is on. In the Maybach mode, the throttle response is definitely dulled. Again, not because of economy purposes, but to make it very comfortable. In fact, it will even set off in second gear so that you don't feel that shift from first to second, which is quite a prominent shift in most cars and most transmissions. So you don't feel that kind of nod from that shift. So it just starts off in second gear. So it's a very, very smart system. And I think, again, it's the best suited for the personality of the GLS 600 Maybach. But 558 horsepower is definitely a lot. But more than performance, it's about effortless cruising. So you put your foot down. It's a very gradual acceleration. Of course, there is a sport mode. There's even an off-road mode. But even under braking, like right now, brake pedal feel it's a little bit numb, but it gives you confidence. But what kind of is, again, takes a little bit of getting used to is how the body just stays so level. Another thing I notice is because of how tall the sides of this SUV are, the cars that are passing, I can feel the wind that they're pushing onto this large surface a little bit more prominently. But visibility is really great. This tall seating position, again, I think really suits this ultra luxury segment quite well. I have a great view out forward with this large windshield. That head-up display is also fantastic. I really like the Mercedes head-up display. They're very vivid. The colors are bright, it's very easy to read, and it's actually quite large. It spans a large expanse on your windshield, so it's very easy to see. The numbers are big, you don't have to squint, and you have large windows on the side. Of course, you have a 360-degree parking camera, so parking is really easy. We're in a narrow little village here, rather, and it doesn't feel too big. That being said, though, this does not have rear axle steering, which is not, in the beginning I was a little bit concerned, especially considering the expensive wheels, the expensive paint job, just the overall expense. Damaging something in narrow villages like this would have been quite disastrous. But to be honest, the front wheels turn, the steering angle is really significant, as is the case with most Mercedes cars. So it doesn't really, I'm not really missing that rear axle steering at the moment. You have to be careful in park garages because of course you can't swing the back around. But otherwise, it just is so effortless. The steering rack is a little bit slow, but again, it kind of gives it more of a sense of occasion. Just driving this does seem like a sense of occasion. It does feel like a land yacht. The seats are supremely comfortable. You have a plethora of different options and settings to set it up the way you want. They're very supportive, very comfortable. Everything you touch, everything. My knee is resting against the center console. That's also soft and padded. This armrest is soft and padded. It also arcs up right here, the center console. So it's really comfortable to place your wrist on this as well. They've really thought of these little details. Yeah, on the whole, here in the front, yes, it is still very GLS, but I still feel the Maybach as well. But what's more interesting is the back seat. So let's take a look at that. All right, to help me understand how it's like there in the back seat, I got my buddy Jonas sitting in the back seat. So Jonas, first thing, there's a button on your right side on the door which has a reclined symbol on it. Press that and see what happens. Yeah, I can also see the seat here moving forward. Also on the right door, there's a little switch to raise the window shade. You can go ahead and try that as well if you would like. There you go. So, Jonas, do you feel like you're the owner of the world?
Yeah, now I'm the owner of the world.
Now, Jonas has a pretty good experience in these kinds of cars. So, Jonas, you've also sat in the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. So compared to that, let's start off with the sound insulation. So we spoke about how much of sound deadening has gone into pretty much every aspect of the Maybach. How does this compare, in your opinion, with the Cullinan?
I really think it's even better. I mean, the Rolls-Royce is already pretty good, but as I imagine, this one is really like 10-15% better than the Rolls-Royce. 10-15%.
Well, the Maybach was benchmarked against the S-Class Maybach, which is one of the most quietest production sedans in the world. So it's a pretty good place to start, and they said they have accomplished that level of sound deadening. Now, another important part, Jonas, of the Maybach is that Maybach mode which we are in now, which is optimizing the transmission. Like I said, it starts off in second gear, as well as the air suspension for the back seat. So not even me, it's for you. I'm your chauffeur today. So do you feel any change? Do you feel how much of on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most stiffest, bounciest suspension ever, and 1 being the softest, like you're just sitting on a waterbed, how comfortable is the back now, especially with this adaptive suspension?
Yeah, it's definitely 1, 2, 2, so it's super comfortable. And the example is pretty good. It really feels like a waterbed. It's really like floating, like really big waves. I mean, you're still moving. It's not like you're not moving.
Sure.
But it's really like big waves going, and you're floating.
Absolutely, we cannot defy physics. But again, driving this, even for me here as your chauffeur today, It's very relaxing, and because of this quiet cabin, you don't have to shout to communicate with me, you know? We're having a nice conversation. We're not having to raise our voices. I don't have to turn around to talk to you. But how does it feel with the large panoramic roof, with the white interior color? Does it feel spacious, or do you feel cramped? You're a pretty tall guy. How tall are you again?
I'm 1 meters 93.
That's over 6. It's over 6 foot. So how is the space back there?
I mean, I just lowered the shades, but the windows are still tainted, and this. I mean, if they were like clean, it would be really open space. But now it's still like a small cave you're in. You know, you have a good view outside because the windshield is pretty big, and also at the sky. But it's more like a very comfortable cave.
Cave. You're right. The tinted windows on the sides will definitely hinder that. But okay, so it sounds like definitely the place to be is in the back. I'm not going to let you enjoy that for too long. So why don't you come back here in the front?
Sure.
Let's summarize today's episode of the Mercedes-Maybach GLS 600. Prices start at around 180,000 euros, but as we talked about, once you start adding options, you're easily looking at numbers on around 250,000 euros. That's quite a lot of money, but it still does undercut some of its competitors, especially the Rolls-Royce Cullinan. So, at the end of today's drive, we were getting numbers around 18.5 litres for 100 kilometers, which is of course a lot, but if you're buying this SUV, I don't think you really care about that. There's a lot to love with the new Maybach. I like the interior. The back seat is where the Maybach really comes to life in this GLS platform. Ultimately, if you have this kind of money and you want this ultra-luxury SUV, you don't really have to stretch for the Rolls-Royce. This does almost everything that you would require, and it looks fantastic too. Let me know what you think. Put it down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.